Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed we do. So a new plot to hide the Epstein files is coming into view. Dems and Republicans, also after voting to release the Epstein files, which was good, come together in an absolutely disgusting, grotesque, corrupt deal. So we'll break those details down for you. Meanwhile, DC Republicans and Trump himself working overtime to try to block any sort of AI regulation at the state level. You know, we got to talk about that one. Some shocking new polling on the midterms. We'll break that down for you. Trump's case against Jim Comey is falling apart spectacularly and in absolutely humiliating fashion. And Ross Barkan is going to join us to break down a number of things that are going on in New York, specifically with Zohran Mamdani. He is actually coming to D.C. to meet with Trump. He also last night showed up at a meeting to block an endorsement of Hakeem Jeffries' opponent. So lots going on there. And there are a whole bunch of other primary challenges from the left coming in New York City specifically. So super excited to talk to Ross about all of that.
Yeah, that's exciting. The Zohran, our boy's all grown up. He's already blocking endorsements for Hakeem Jeffries' challengers. Just tragic to see the world of politics. Thank you to everybody who is signing up. BreakingPoints.com to become a premium subscriber. We have been overloaded with new listeners and viewers because of our Epstein coverage, and we're very happy to have you. Please support our work if you're able to, breakingpoints.com. If you're not, no worries. Please just hit subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, please send an episode to a friend or rate us 5 stars. It really helps the show grow. But as you said, Trump has officially signed the new bill. He did it in the dead of night in silence with no cameras. Not exactly something he's known to do. This is the man who will call a press conference in the Oval Office for like, we are updating the way that we, have hurricane planes or something and turn it into a 1 hour long thing.
He could have had the victims there. I mean, that's what Ro Khanna, I know at least probably Thomas Massey as well, Marjorie Taylor Greene were suggesting. Do a signing ceremony, take ownership over it, have the survivors there behind you, but no, not his choice.
Yes, he signed it late last night. And in fact, I was in touch with some of my friends who still cover the White House. They actually were sent home as reporters when the bill was delivered to the Oval, and he signed it in private, and then they released it only through official channels. This is very rare, again, for the Trump administration. I can't tell you how many bill signings I attended when I was a White House reporter. It's very common. It's one of the ways that, it kind of turns something into a press conference. And he does this all the time for various small little things. So, interesting behavior. Let's go and put this up here on the screen then. Trump signs the bill authorizing the release of the Epstein files. The actual law text itself is really important. It now says that the Attorney General has 30 days to make available unclassified documents related to the disgraced financier and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The difficult part is, what did I just say? Unclassified. And already the Attorney General is laying the groundwork for some significant redactions in the eventual release some 1 month from now. Here's what the Attorney General Pam Bondi had to say.
Does the new investigation by the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney prevent the department from releasing all of the remaining files?
So we have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law and to have maximum transparency. Also, we will always encourage all victims to come forward.
So clearly, she didn't say no, because the question very specifically, does the new investigation prevent the DOJ from releasing all of those files? Now, this is in combination with Ken Klippenstein. He's got a new report. Let's go and put that up here on the screen. The Epstein bill passes as top officials circulate plans to block transparency. And so what he has been able to reveal is that if you actually read the text of the law, there is a national security concern carve-out that is inside. H.R. 4405 requires the Attorney General to complete the release of the information, including to declassified information to the maximum extent possible. This raises 2 concerns. First, it may not be feasible to properly undertake an extensive review in such a short period of time. Second, ignores the principle declassification should rest with the agency. So this is exactly the national security argument that he warned about which would be used to block the disclosure from the DOJ and from the FBI with their 100,000 files or so that are inside. Very good flag from him. What it does represent, though, is that just like with JFK or with UFOs, with anything, just because they put something out doesn't make it true. Just because they put something out doesn't actually mean that it's usually not indicative of even further of a cover-up. So that is the flag where we are. I do want to take a moment to celebrate Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. I mean, I said that I'm a cynical guy. I don't usually expect anything to really happen here, and I thought it was dead the moment that Trump and all of them started to come after it, and they just kept fighting. 427-1 in the House of Representatives. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Brute forced it through the Senate, even though Mike Johnson and Trump said that the Senate wanted to change it. No senator wanted to be on the record saying that, no, we're not going to vote against it. And Donald Trump, cowed in the dead of night, forced to sign this piece of legislation, which he fought tooth and nail for over 2 months to try to defeat. So things are still possible in this town, folks. I mean, it's amazing to see. Honestly, warms my heart.
I don't know
for the first time in a long time.
I don't know if we've ever seen I think you have to go back to like John McCain blocking the ACA repeal and replace to think of a similar sort of defeat. But this one was so comprehensive. I mean, Trump was looking at losing some 100 potentially Republicans. And that's why he ultimately was like, well, geez, I just gotta, if you can't beat him, you gotta join him. What else can I do? And I'll just try my best to message that really the Democrats are all the bad guys and there's no Republicans and I'm certainly not implicated here. Even though we've already seen the birthday book, we've seen his name littered throughout these files, and we've seen the special treatment that Ghislaine Maxwell is getting down at her Club Fed as well, which is also very indicative of the fact that he's worried what she could present to the public. So, give a lot of credit to everyone that was involved. Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, first and foremost, Marjorie Taylor Greene, also very impactful. On the Democratic side, you have to think, Saagar, you remember when we interviewed Alyssa Slotkin, her line and the official line of the Democratic Party was Epstein is a distraction.
Yes.
Sure, we're interested in it, but this is a distraction from the price of eggs or whatever. Not to say those aren't important issues as well. Of course they are. But Ro Khanna was like a dog with a bone with this thing. He understood, and I think in large part because he goes on shows like ours and goes on all kinds of different podcast shows and goes and is out there in the country as well, he understood that this really struck a nerve, that it really went to the core of Donald Trump's brand, the way he had presented himself, not just to the country, but to specifically to his own base. He knew this would be a very difficult issue for him. And that instinct and that insight ultimately paid off. Now, we were never Pollyanna-ish about thinking that this was going to be some silver bullet and now all the truth is going to come to light. That is not how these things work. They are certainly engaged right now. And I think they've been engaged in a cover-up the whole time. The Trump administration is likely scrubbing the files. They're using this investigation to block things. All they have to do, because the bill says unclassified information, all they have to do is, this is classified. Sorry, you can't have it. And those pieces that they don't want to come out will not come out. But you know what? At least we now have a tool, just like with the JFK bill that was passed in the 90s. It gave researchers and activists a tool to try to force and compel the federal government to come out with documents. And over time, we've learned more and more and more. My own personal opinion is, even if it is just like, Larry Summers or Bill Clinton or whatever the Democrats are, that we get the dirt on, that's fine. That's
same.
an improvement.
I agree.
That is a step forward. And I think everybody already sees and knows that Trump was very tied up in these circles in various ways, as he was Jeffrey Epstein's best bud for like an entire decade, and his name littered throughout the emails that we already have released. So, with all the caveats of the way they're going to go about trying to scrub this and trying to cover up and cover Trump's ass and all of that, I think we still have to acknowledge that this is an extraordinary against the odds victory, and ultimately really, a victory for these survivors, a victory for truth and discovery about foreign influence in our government as well, specifically with regard to the nation of Israel. Not that the media is continuing to really cover that aspect outside of a few notable examples.
Yeah, they're getting dragged kicking and screaming to that, and when they do, they just pearl clutch around it. But we'll get there. As you know, it's a long march in this war. Been covering it since 2018. I went back and saw the very first video ever done on the subject. And look, as you said, even covering stuff up, that in and of itself tells a story. The 9/11 Commission, the infamous 28 pages, we all knew it was in the pages. It eventually started leaking out, and soon they became public with the Saudi connection and all that was revealed, and now it's basically part of lawsuits and others against the Saudi government. It put the Obama presidency in a very tough position whenever he tried to block that finding Saudi Arabian government, liable. He literally tried to block it, and the entire United States Senate voted against. So these things do have power. It will take a long time. It's like, again, have covered so many of these things. Just this morning, there's a new CIA report that actually boasted about tricking Congress on JFK. This is from the 1970s. But, I mean, again, look, I know. At the time when we needed it, it didn't come out. That said, the fact that we still have all this, the truth matters. And yes, even if they do cover up the Israel connection and all that, we can get to that. By the way, we have enough in the public domain already in order to basically say that it's done and dusted in terms of what he was. Even if it's just Larry Summers and the Rothschild family, and yeah, that's actually still a pretty big deal. Well, or J.P. Morgan or any of these other people. I'm like, look at what's happened now with Larry Summers. I'm like, yeah, good. These people should be revealed for who they are.
And think about, like, if a Democrat does win the White House in 2028 and all the dirt has been released on the Democratic side, what you think they're gonna they're gonna be, okay, the law compels me to release the rest of what we have with regard to Trump. So if you are just fixated on what was Trump's involvement here, which honestly I think is somewhat fair given that he is the president of the United States, this law also makes it so that just with the change of leadership, you don't require any new legislation or anything of the sort to, have a tool to, again, press the government to release additional information. So huge win here all around. Speaking of Larry Summers, so we covered previously, he has announced he's stepping back from all of his public commitments. He resigned from the OpenAI board. He stepped down from his role crafting economic policy over the Center for American Progress. But he is continuing to teach his Harvard classes.
Or he was yesterday. Now he is no longer.
Oh, he's not?
After this video came out.
Oh, really? Oh, I missed that.
Yeah,
okay.
late last night.
So that was, okay, yeah. I missed that. I guess I was looking for that. In any case, so he went in front of his class and, explained how much he regretted his interactions with Jeffrey Epstein, which, just a reminder, he was talking to this man up until the day before he was arrested. So this was not like, oh, it was the 2000s. I had no idea. I really didn't understand. No, this is after he's a convicted sex criminal, registered sex offender. This is after all of the reporting from Julie K. Brown and others about the extent of his network and this elaborate global pedophile ring. Like, all of that is out there. And Larry Summers is using him for advice for how to sleep with this woman who was not only his mentee, but also the daughter of a Chinese party official. So in any case, this is Summers explaining to his class how much he regrets all of these interactions.
Some of you will have seen my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back from public activities for a time, but I think it's very important to fulfill my teaching obligations. And so, with your permission, we're going to go forward and talk about the material in the class.
That's not the most awkward beginning of a class I could possibly imagine. And the text on the screen, because the student surreptitiously recorded this, was like, this is how Harvard classes start. Professors apologizing for their Jeffrey Epstein ties.
Yes. So as of late last night, Larry Summers has revealed he will not finish his semester of teaching as Harvard investigates Epstein ties. And look, maybe I'm just woke because I have a daughter now. But yeah, I mean, could you imagine being a woman in that class, or any class being taught by Larry Summers, when the Epstein emails are about him trying to leverage his power and connections? Larry Summers hitting on this woman while he's married and then bragging about it to his wingman, Jeffrey Epstein. I'd be like, no, get this fucking creep away from my kids, man.
Right.
I mean, how could you possibly say that this dude can be in a position of any power or influence on young girls in class? No.
Fair.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he went to great lengths to be, she wasn't a student, but he described her as his mentee. So he talked in the emails about how I don't think she really wants this romantic relationship anymore, but she still needs me for my guidance. And basically, I'm in this powerful position, so maybe that just keeps her around. Actively talking about the way he's exploiting this power dynamic to get in this woman's pants. Really disgusting stuff. And then also, like, I think Larry Summers, in my opinion, Larry Summers should have been drummed down in public life long ago for his complicity and, you know, NAFTA and the bank bailouts. And I mean, he's just been at the, as I said before, the scene of like every great economic crime in recent American history. That wasn't enough to push him out, but at least temporarily, there are some repercussions. Woke is back. There are consequence culture. It's here, and you know, fairly so, I would say, in the case of Larry Summers.
Yeah, I mean, seriously though, there's this whole talk right now amongst a certain group of people. They're like, "Oh, this is like a Me Too witch hunt." I'm like, "Is it? Like, no, for real though. Like, he admitted to trying to cheat on his wife with Jeffrey Epstein, bragged about it as a lecherous creep, well into his 60s and leveraging his own power. I don't think that that's like the same as the Aziz Ansari Jezebel article, right? I mean, and by the way, even whenever it comes to that, I'm like, wait, so are we saying like Matt Lauer never should have been, you know, fired? Like, no, I don't think anybody is really saying that, okay?
Yeah.
What people are saying is like, yeah, I think it went too far or it became a mania or hysteria. Fine, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen that happen yet with the Epstein case. If anything, it's the opposite, is that there are a bunch of people who just openly are able to go on cable television, as we'll get to in a little bit, and be like, oh, he was just a guy, my constituent there who was texting me. So yeah, I mean, you know, whenever it comes to this, it's one of those where, what's the standard? Like, you have to be a full-blown convicted criminal like Epstein was, right?
Yeah.
In order to be canceled, quote unquote. I don't know. I just think the whole thing's crazy.
Yeah, maybe it is an indication we're coming to like a healthy place with all of this, where we can like evaluate the claims against someone on their merits and consider what appropriate consequences are. And it's not just, you know, if there's anything said about you, then you're canceled. And it's not believe all women, and it's also not believe all men. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
we can process these things. We can see the totality of who you are and how long. I mean, this was years that he was so close with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, it's anyway.
Also, he's in a position of immense power. I just talked about the professor. That's the least of our problems. He's on the board of OpenAI. You want this freak on the board of the of ChatGPT and of determining standards for national suicide? What we just talked about? What? No. Okay. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, and I'm like also very sort of selfishly interested in getting him out of this Center for American Progress.
Right, Project
economic
2029.
blueprint
There you go.
effort as well, separate and apart from the Jeffrey Epstein piece because of his terrible economic ideology. So in any case, I do have a sub-motivation there, I will confess. Let's put A4 up on the screen. We finally have one other outlet that is doing some reporting on Epstein's Israel connections. So in some of these emails, and this is very interesting. This is from another friend of ours, of course, Branko Marcetic, who does fantastic reporting over at Jacobin Magazine. And he writes that in these newly released files, it shows Jeffrey Epstein claiming to have been involved in Ehud Barak's 2019 election challenge to Benjamin Netanyahu. He says it's well past time to ask questions about the billionaire pedophile's links to Israel. Yeah, here on that one. And it's wild. He's actually emailing with Steve Bannon. And one of these emails got a lot of attention because he says something like, you know, now you can understand why Trump stays up at night sweating when he knows that you and I are in touch. But what the mainstream press, when they reported that one out, what they left out of the equation is that the context was him bragging about how influential he was in Israeli politics. And he's using that to say, look at how influential I am here. That's why Trump has got to be so stressed about my connection with you and lay up at night. And this was like, again, very close to the time that he ends up being arrested in prison and then dead. So one other like subplot story of this, though, is that one of the emails that the mainstream press did reproduce, they messed up. It said in it Ehud, like Ehud Barak, and they messed up the transcribing of that and they put it as Chud. So instead of EHUD, multiple news outlets put CHUD, so which totally buries the context of what this was all about. Was that intentional or not? I don't know. You guys can be the judge of that. But very interesting accidental oversight here from the mainstream media, which has still continued to treat the Epstein ties to Israel like some grand anti-Semitic conspiracy, even though it's all like documented and reported.
I do want to give a shout out to the Pod Save Bros, who recently shouted out,
that's right.
You know, after Tommy Vietor claimed previously that it was a conspiracy.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these where all of these people, I get it, okay? To them, it seems icky because it all bubbled up on the bad side of the internet and with bad right-wingers. Like, look, you know, many of us were not speaking out of our ass. The trail of the evidence was actually all there for anybody who wanted to see. It's been there since about 2021, and it doesn't just rely singularly on the Alex Acosta quote. Like, if we look at the weapons background and the Khashoggis and who all of that he was working with and who he was interested in, and broadly his own connections to Israel, the fact that he went to Israel while he was signing his non-prosecution agreement, it was all there, okay? It was out in the open, and they never wanted to acknowledge it. At this point, with the drop site report, it's like done, dusted in terms of how connected he was to the state of Israel, but they just can't get there. Like, and this is kind of reminds me of the Cuomo thing you just said with Larry Summers. On the merits, Summers should be nowhere because of who he was. Like, his own, like, the sex, Epstein stuff is kind of secondary. And for some reason, like with Cuomo, everyone was like, oh, well, his Me Too investigation, that's why. It's like, no, the nursing home thing alone was enough to say, how can we possibly ever trust your judgment? I think that the reason why there's been a lot of, like, capital D Democrats who are interested in the stories, because they see, like, it attacks Trump, and, you know, they don't care about Larry Summers or Bill Clinton at this point, not should you. But guys, like, that is kind of the secondary element of it. Now, the reason why, like, any sort of blackmail or any of that matters from Trump to Clinton to any of these other people in power is because of the foreign leverage with these governments that he was working with. That's what makes it actionable and actually, you know, impactful in terms of beyond money or, you know, the JP Morgan Chase, but brokering governments and leaders and security agreements. Like, that's what puts it in the realm of the public interest, in my mind, is not just that connection. And so I do think, you know, kind of like with JFK or any of these other stories where I think it's easy to sit there and dissect Magic Bullet, but I think it becomes more interesting to zoom out and be like, okay, so why did they kill him, right? You know, it's like, it's not just about the plot.
Was he pursuing that were such a threat that they had to take him out?
In my opinion, it was all about Cuba, right? I know there's a whole Israel secondary part of the JFK stuff. I haven't seen enough to back that up. But in my opinion, it was mostly about Cuba, and then eventually became an ideological, like, sphere that morphed into Vietnam. That's why Oliver Stone is obsessed with that, because he had to go fight in Vietnam when he was 18 years old, and his entire life was, like, you know, impacted by that. And he became obsessed with that question. And it is, I mean, he described it as one of the most impactful turning points in American history. Yeah. He's correct about that. You have to go and to look at the consequences. I think same in here. So I think one of the things for all of us is we can't let this part of the story die.
Yeah.
We really can't. Like, it's so important, you know, to make so that media cannot try to spin this in the direction that they want. Because it's also to their benefit, where I've seen this mainstream media thing, which is starting to catch on now, which is like, oh, well, there was no big sex blackmail story. I'm like, well, it's, again, I've always said, it's not about that per se. It's really about the network and the stuff that he was able to get away with, and then leveraging those connections to money and to power on behalf of multiple foreign governments, including, yes, the state of Israel. Like, that's what it's actually about. So that's my, you know.
I mean, we have to, like, you have to be blind at this point not to put some of the puzzle pieces together. Trump, I think we can say definitively now, is very concerned about whatever Ghislaine Maxwell could say, right? So clearly he would have thought that Jeffrey Epstein knows at least whatever Ghislaine Maxwell knows. And he would, I mean, he was close friends with this man. He knew the level of connections that he had. He would have known about the globe trotting and known about all of these influential people and governments that he was connected to. Like, I think at this point, it would be incredibly naive to not think that Trump believed Epstein had things on him that would be very, very damaging, if not fatal, to his political career. And you do have this email from Epstein to Steve Bannon, again, one of Trump's closest confidants, very soon before he ends up in prison, saying, now you can understand why Trump wakes up in the middle of the night sweating when he hears you and I are friends. And listen, guys, you also have to say, it is in Trump's first administration that Epstein ends up dead. So this is the sort of communication that's going on. Steve Bannon reportedly said before, Epstein he thought was the one person who could take down Donald Trump. Epstein ends up in prison and then dead under the first Trump administration. And now his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, is getting club-fed treatment down with her puppy, and she's like, you know, the warden's her bitch. She can make him do whatever she wants to do. I mean, this is crazy shit, guys. So open your eyes. Nothing is definitively proven, but open your eyes to the picture that has emerged at this point And, you know, I would say that it is an incredibly important line of inquiry to understand how this impacts today, not what did Trump do in the past, how does this impact Donald Trump and his conduct of foreign policy today, right now?
Yeah.
That is the most important question with all of this.
It's just so disgusting. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those where this is what, again, people, they don't want to zoom in. Like, the point is it's about Trump. It's been going on for 20, 30 years. Like, who wants to know, right? With Israel and all these other foreign governments, for all of these leaders. I mean, guys, don't forget, the British ambassador to the United States of America was fired because of the Epstein connection.
Yeah, that's right.
He literally, do you remember in the email? He said, oh, it's a travesty of justice what's happened to you. He said it was unjust that he was convicted back in 2006. We all just moved. The Prince Andrew.
There was a travesty of justice, but it was in the other direction.
Prince Andrew just got stripped of all of his royal titles. And of course, there's people out there like, oh, it's all a witch hunt. I'm like, yeah, maybe the king knows a little bit something that you and I don't know. Okay, maybe that's what it is. Just happened to think that. Not to mention, the Prince Andrew, or I guess Andrew, we can now call him Andrew Mountbatten. Andrew Mountbatten has all these sketchy financial dealings, you know, with his wife and leveraging it all fits together. For what purpose? We don't 100% know yet. So I'm looking forward to some of the future releases, regardless of what they cover up, because in information, there's always power. Let's go to the last story here. This is A5. This is about, quote, Democrats are going to come to regret this after Epstein vote. Trump is ready to attack. So Trump now has directed the DOJ to open an investigation into all the Democrats who are named in the Epstein files. Fine with me. Yeah, that's cool. All right, let's get it out into court. There is some concern, though, that by citing an active DOJ investigation, that they will actually be able to cover up some of the Epstein stuff in terms of redactions. However, don't forget that even at the end of prosecution, that you will still be able to eventually get access to them within this, but it could be a delaying tactic. Regardless, though, I mean, as our last block is about James Comey, when you have to file stuff in court, you'll learn a lot of stuff. You learn a lot. And that's something that's not been to the benefit of the Trump administration on multiple different occasions. So I'm looking forward to this no matter what comes of it, because we will learn quite a bit.
Yeah, well, he wants to flip it and make it, I mean, his language is, oh, this is just all about Democrats. There are no Republicans implicated. And I just think, like, we're so far past people seeing it through that lens that it's ridiculous. Right. And, you know, I even wonder if he really follows through on all of the, you know, all of the bluster that he has here, because we're going to talk about the Stacey Plaskett thing. We covered that before. Obviously, we covered Larry Summers, et cetera. Republicans really seem to think like Democrats are like desperate to protect Bill Clinton at this point. And they're like, it's fine. Like, it's okay. Whatever comes out about him, we're not all that panicked about it. So I have a feeling he's going to have a hard time really going on the offense on this thing after spending so much time and continuing with an active cover-up of any potential, you know, negative or damning or even just suggestive implications for him himself.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.